Hello, my name is Dale Beckman. This is my very first episode on helping others to understand Scripture, and much of the information and a whole lot more can be found on my website, thetrueway.xyz. It's all one word. So, anyhow, um, many people might be wondering why in the world would I have something up there like Yah Sin War? What does he have to do with Christ? Okay. Well, it's interesting. Very interesting. I'll try not to take up too much time on this because I could talk for a couple days on this stuff. But we all know that Christ talked about the end times. Classic example, which a lot of people use, is Matthew chapter 24. He talks about wars, reports of wars, food shortages, earthquakes in one place after another, persecution of God's people, increasing of lawlessness. Talks about those that endure will be saved, and also talks about good news being preached through all the nations, and then the end will come. So a lot of people wonder, what is the end? I mean, what does that mean? Does it mean that the earth is going to be burned up? No, it doesn't. Just as the end of Noah's day didn't mean the destruction of the earth or the physical heavens. Same thing with this situation. But there was a judgment, wasn't there? The wicked were destroyed in Noah's day, but the righteous weren't. Um, what's interesting, though, is when Christ comes, Psalm chapter 2 talks about how God gives the nations a chance to submit to Christ. So, which is good. And Revelation talks about how the nations whiten their robes. So they learn to worship God appropriately. So, anyhow, Christ also talks about Daniel the prophet in Matthew chapter 24 and verse 15. It says, therefore, when you catch sight of the disgusting thing or the thing causing abomination, or I should say the abomination that causes desolation, as spoken of through Daniel the prophet, let the reader take notice or heed or understand. Because what's interesting, so when Christ is talking about this, there's that abomination has quite a long life in Daniel chapter 11. And it starts off with destroying Jerusalem of old. We know that, 70 AD. And then it kind of goes away, it kind of fades away. But he comes back and he's replaced with someone else. This is the king of the north of our day. The king of the south is God's people, or the Israelites. What's interesting is the old city of Jerusalem is used as an identifier in a lot of this. And let's go right to the source here. Daniel chapter 11, verse 21 is the introduction or the rise of the king of the north again. And this is the thing. The king of the north in this section of Daniel, the very end of Daniel, he comes to his end. There is no fading away, going away, coming back. He comes to his end. Okay. It talks about a lot of the attributes about of the king of the north, and how he's like an arch enemy of Israel, and is very interesting because at the end of his existence, chapter 12 starts. And it all flows in the same timeline. Well, that's when Michael stands up and wondrous things happen. One thing that happens in verse 2 talks about those asleep in the ground will wake up, good and bad people.